Finally, the Blender 2.9 is released, and in this video we are going to talk about the features in this version of Blender. Hello and welcome to the Atria Graphics channel. In this channel we are going to teach you how to work with a series of softwares. If you like this video, just hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to get a notification whenever we upload a video. When we open Blender, we are going to see a nice splash screen in the version 2.9, and we are going to start with interface, and we will hit F3 for opening search menu, and you can see the icons here have been added to the Blender, and it's very good and very nice for the search menu. And here you can see options for the right of the screen, in bottom of the screen kind of. We can right click on that for watching the version of Blender, video memory using, or system memory, and scene statics. And we can see just this scene statics. From here we come to here and statics, and you can see objects, vertices, and edges in the scene. And if we hit tab for going for edit mode, you can see the number of vertices in the object. And the next option in Blender 2.9 is the modifiers shape has been changed. If we add a subdivision surface modifier and a wireframe modifier, you can see there is no apply button here, but you can apply the modifiers from here and here, or you can hit Ctrl A or X for deleting them, or Shift D for duplicating the modifier in Blender 2.9. And you can move the place of the modifiers with holding these dots here. You can move the modifiers, and it's very nicer than the last version. And the next feature in Blender 2.9, you can see it in the material part. You can see these sockets in the side of every option in the material properties. And the yellow ones mean that you can plug any text color to these parts, but the gray color is telling you you can just add 0 and 1 textures like black and white, not any other color. And it's kind of good in Blender 2.9. And the next feature in the Blender 2.9 is about extruding and beveling in edit mode. So we hit tab for going to edit mode, and we will select this face, and with extruding this face you can see when we extrude the face there is some extra edges along the object, but there is a new option in extruding that we call extrude main float, that when we extrude the face there is no extra edge on the face, on the model. So it's very good and very useful option in the Blender 2.9, and it's kind of very useful for modeling. And the next one is about the loop cuts. So imagine we have two loop cuts here. We go to the vertices mode, vertex select mode, and if we turn on the snapping with edge center, you can see if we add a loop cut here, it's kind of a snapping to the other edges, and it's very useful for modeling. And next one in edit mode is bevel, is about bevel. So we will add a bevel to this part of the object, and in the bevel tools you can customize your bevel with this button here, and you can change the types of bevel on the object, and you can change them but by this the customize, and it's very useful, and you can model whatever you want with this part. And the next one is about UV editing, and we will add a monkey and we will go to the UV editing mode. Okay, we have talked about this option that if we select a face or edge or vertices and hold the control and select the other edge, the blender will select the edges between these two edges. Or we can hold Alt and select a loop cut in the object. And this option is the same of that in the UV editing map. So you can hold control and select a series of edges or faces or vertices, or you can hold Alt for selecting a loop cut in the UV editing mode. And there is another option, we can just cut a part of the, let me, let me turn off this, and we can cut this part of the object, and we do it with V, and it's very useful. It has on the UV editing mode, but I don't know why it's not working on my computer, but it's just like this one. You can cut the part of the UV map and move it on the UV map. And if we add a cube here and go to the UV map, you can see, let me at first add some materials to it. So we will add a break texture. Now you can see it has a map on the object. It has a material on the object, and if you look at this shape of the texture on the object, if we just grab this face and move it along the y-axis, the texture is not following this action and it's ruined the texture. But in the new Blender 2.9, we can come here and hit the correct face attribution, and with GY you can see the UV map will follow the transforms in your object, and it's very good option for moving the faces on your object. It's kind of edit the UV map live on your UV map editor. A new option in the Blender 2.9 is a new sky texture for our world. So in the shading part, we can search for a sky texture and plug it to the background, and now we have a sky texture for our scene. And you can see that is creating a nice and beautiful sky. But in the Blender 2.9 is another texture that we call it Nishito. But you can see when we add that, there is nothing happen in our scene because this texture has created for the cycles render, and you can see it's very powerful and very beautiful for our scene. And you can change the sun size or intent of that, or rotation of the sun, or you can increase the air or the dust or the ozone for our scene. And there is another option here that we call it denoise. But in the last parts of the blender, we couldn't denoise the viewport. Only denoising was for the final render. But in the Blender 2.9 for cycles, we can just pick this part, we call it denoising, and hit the viewport checkbox. And you can see there is no noise on the viewport. And that's a very powerful, and it's just like the render mode. And it was very good option in Blender 2.9. And the next one is ocean modifier. For adding a motion modifier, we will add a cube, and in the modifier part we will hit ocean, and now we can make this plane to just like the ocean. So we can add some resolution to it, and we can increase the size of that, and with the waves part we can increase the size of the waves for our ocean. And you can play with these options here, and it's very useful modifier for the Blender 2.9. And the next modifier that we can use in Blender 2.9 is multi-resolution modifier. So let me add a cube, and we will hit the multi-resolution modifier. So let me find it. Okay, and now you can subdivide the cube with hitting this button here, and it will subdivide it, but you can decrease the subdivision on your object with this menu here, and it's very useful absolutely for the sculpt mode. So if we go to the sculpt mode and let me subdivide it one more time, we can start sculpting our object. And if we want to decrease the subdivision for that, we can just hit that here from here, and we can increase it from here, and it is very useful option in Blender 2.9. Okay, now we are going to talk about the motion blur in the Eevee. In the last versions of the Blender, there was no motion blur in the Eevee render engine, but in the 2.9 version there is, and we are going to check on that. So we will add a keyframe here, GY, and another keyframe here. Now we will play the animation, and now we can add a motion blur from here. So we stop the animation in between frames, and we will hit F12. But let me add a camera and light and F12, and you can see there is a motion blur here for our object, and it's very useful for creating animation, and it's a new option in Blender 2.9. Okay, this was the important options in the Blender 2.9. I hope you enjoyed this video. In this page, I will recommend you some of our videos that you can enjoy them and use them for modeling and creating good scene in Blender. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to get a notification whenever we upload a video. Have a great day.